another MarketMuse content strategy webinar in our content strategy webinar series. I'm Jeff Coyle, the co-founder and chief strategy officer of MarketMuse. And today we're going to be talking about what you need to consider for 2023 content strategy. But we didn't just update the title, Rimshot. We're actually talking about stuff that's going to be 2023 proper, right? It's things that maybe weren't 2021, 2020, were never proper. But really focusing on what you need to do and be thinking about so that you can budget appropriately. Before I introduce my amazing guest who influences more content than most of you will ever shake a stick at, a little housekeeping. Ask us anything related to whatever. You can ask us about, what we ate yesterday. You can ask us about content strategy. Get into some details about things we're worried about. Questions. If we don't get to all of them, we're also going to be doing an AMA in our Slack community. There's a link going to be set up in the chat. Click on it if you're not part of the Content Strategy Collective. Slack community is a great way to meet people, find whatever it is you need to find as well. While you're at it, you're going to get the replay recording in the next few days. Go check out the rest of our webinars, blog.marketmuse.com/webinars. We've got hundreds of webinar recordings from everybody you can possibly imagine in the space. And I think that you will find a few insightful ones. One of my favorite ones is with Pam Didner on sales enablement, because I love sales enablement, but there's literally like 100 of those to go check out. And like I mentioned, you're gonna get this replay in the next few days. Joining us, the CEO of Crowd Content, someone I know very, very well and love, Carlos Meza. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you being here, getting into it, thinking about content strategy all the time. Tell us a little bit about you, Crowd Content, the types of things you've done, and then also your mission right now.
Awesome, and thanks, Jeff, for having me here, and thanks to the MarketMuse team. I've been called many things, but amazing is not one. I've been called often enough, or not too often. But thanks for the introduction. And yeah, so I'm the CEO of Crowd Content. So we're a content production and a content creation platform, so people can come to our platform and find freelancers to create amazing content. I guess our claim to fame or why we have been able to be successful is because we have been able to nail the intersection between quality and scale, which is a very hard thing to do from our perspective. I think some people can do really high quality content, but at a small scale, and a lot of people can do lots of volume, lots of scale, but not really great quality or not consistent quality. I think it's hard to do both, right? So, and we have refined that process over now 12 years in this journey. I just joined. I was fortunate to join this company just a couple of years ago, taking over from the founder when we acquired the company from him with a group of private equity investors. So my mission is to take this company to the next level. Our vision is to create an end-to-end content marketing platform, and we're starting from the content writing side of it, but we're going to be evolving and introducing a lot of new things to our clients. Really, our mission is to solving content problems at a scale. That's what our mission is. What is our core purpose? Is a reason of being. Helping people create great content at scale and solving content problems at a scale.
Now you know why we get along so much. We have the exact same mission. We just do it in a couple different ways, but they actually work well. They work well together, which is why we're partners with you all, and you all partners with us. And that's why we're talking today. I said amazing because one thing, and I'm hopefully not embarrassing you, is you were speaking at a conference, Rhodium Weekend, which we're both members of the Rhodium community. If you're familiar, whether you're a founder and owner or just really a practitioner buying and selling websites, please go check out Rhodium. I'll plug our community and masterminds. But I remember Carlos, I'm like, it's going to be a tall order for you to keep everybody tuned in and excited. You're the last speaking slot of the entire show before everyone breaks for the fun stuff. And you still packed them in and knocked them dead. So to me, that's amazing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I think I've never been so nervous in my life before giving a speech, because you have people in Vegas that are, after 2 or 3 days of a really great conference, all tired, maybe a little bit hangover, ready to go, and then having to keep them entertained or keep them engaged is tolerable. But I think I was fortunate of having a great audience. So yeah, the same, like if people that are interested should check out Rhodium, amazing community of online entrepreneurs, people in content, people in e-commerce and SaaS. So probably a lot of people in the audience could benefit from being part of that group.
Yeah, for sure. And if you want to know more about that, shoot Carlos or me a note. So to the topic at hand, let's talk first about just generally the evolution. You have said it, since, becoming the CEO, your goal was really to make sure that there was not a question that you were focused on quality and delivering quality. How has that changed your business? And then going into 2023, is there a place for anything but quality, or what does it mean to have quality, and why is that so critical for organic search success? And obviously I'm not being trite with this statement, because everybody's like, yeah, okay, good quality content, but really when you're thinking about it, how has that changed for you during your journey? And then going into 2023 for your positioning, how much does content quality go into kind of being the same thing as SEO success?
Yeah, well, that's a very, very long and deep question, but I'll try to address the best we can and not get too philosophical, right? Because quality is a very ethereal concept that means a lot, very different things to very different people. But from our perspective on SEO, so and from our business as well, so SEO quality mean two things. One, quality means that we meet the specs of the client. So if a client ask me, I want you to write this content this way, cover these topics with this voice, this tone, this length, and at this price, and we meet those expectations between 90 and 100%, because again, this is still a little bit of an art, so it's not science, it's not going to be ever perfect. That is quality, right? So if if you're a carpenter and I tell you, hey, I want you to build this particular shelf with this length, with this specs, and you give me exactly what I asked you for at the price that we'd agree upon, I think that's one way to measure quality. Now, having said that, the other measure of quality is what all of us SEOs are focused on, right? So, and who dictate that bar for quality is Google and the search engines and so on, and the algorithms, right? So to your question of how our business has evolved, is we keep raising the bar of what quality is, right? And what good writing and what good copy is. So I think long gone are the days where you could get away with fluffy, very superficial kind of stuff. Now quality content is all about being helpful and being of value to your audience, right? Are you answering a question? Are you solving a problem for your audience? So that's, I think, how Google is measuring quality, how we're looking at it. That is not just put some words and some keywords into a website so you can be found and then you can sell something. It's about, okay, are you really trying to help people with your content? Are people leaving your website better off that when they came in? So I hope that kind of answers some of the questions. So with that, is just we keep raising the bar. So we're accepting less and less freelancers and less writers because the bar keeps going up, right? And we keep investing a lot in training our team in what good quality copy is, as it just continues to evolve, right? We cannot just train them once and then move on with our lives. We have to keep retrain everybody and keep adapting our processes to make sure we keep meeting that quality bar for our clients.
Well, I mean, speaking about this, we're speaking about this for kind of predicting the future, and as natural language processing, as large language models become accessible, as open source libraries for analysis become, one of the outputs is that the bar gets raised for what the minimum viable quality is. Because frankly, if you can generate low quality content, why would you pay someone to write low quality content, right? So as a content provider, as a content writing network provider, I've always seen this as the boa constrictor, right? Coming for the content networks, you got to keep getting better and better and better and better. Are you kind of in a spot where you went from 2 to 8, eight's your bar now, and it was 2, or how do you think about like where the bar is now, why the bar is there? I love, by the way, you describing operations success is one measure of quality for a business like yours, and then you had the content quality, right? So you have to have operations success, but then when you're measuring content quality, has that gone up so much? And then you can never go down. How do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely not gone down. Like, again, there is, like I said, so some content that will pass maybe a year or 2 years ago, right now it's not gonna even exist anymore. So whether it's hard to say, yeah, it's increased by 50%, 100%, 200%, because it depends on many things, right? Verticals, are we talking about product reviews? Are we talking about informational? Like, we can throw all those variables in, and then it would be a very nuanced response. But what I would say is it's increased dramatically, right? So it's not marginal, but dramatically and very, very quickly. So the complexity, the length, also the multi layers of the content, right? Because before, a blog could just be written word and that's it, right? Now you have to have imagery is very important. You might need videos, you might have some infographics and some other resources to make it really high quality content. So I think that's how also has the complexity in terms of quality evolved. It's just not about just the written word of what you're saying. It's all the things that are coming along with it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, that's great, because one of the things I look for when I'm looking at a writing network or some sort, like even a team of writers, or I'm looking at somebody trying to build a team for themselves, which I want to get into that in your perspective on that. Because one of your areas of expertise is kind of finding when experts are needed, finding experts, effectively supplementing one's internal content team even. What I'm looking for is the first thing they're thinking about expertise and quality. If not, it's going to be a struggle. You're going to have to get there, right? And so I know that you have the same perspective. So when you think about ideal processes of scaling up content production with quality in mind, where does one start? Let's say I'm a 2-person shop. I've got me, and I got kind of a person on my team. We kind of tag team all the writing, and we're like, wow, we really could use someone writing high quality content. What do we do right there? I think a lot of people are in that spot where they've got a 3-person team and they're not really sure.
Yeah, it still amazes me that we deal with sometimes Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, Fortune 2000, and still they have the 2-3 people team. Like, it's funny, even though after the pandemic, how content marketing has exploded. Other companies haven't caught up with the amount of resources that you dedicated to decent content marketing. But anyway, so that's for another day. But like, to your example, you're a 2-person team, and or many times 1-person team. So what you need to start really, or where you want to invest the time, is on really being very deliberate about the process and thinking and designing the process. Some of the mistakes that a lot of people make is like, okay, I need content. All right, I'm gonna go to Upwork. I'm gonna go somewhere. I'm gonna find some freelancers. But that's kind of some of the last steps, right? Because you really need to design and spend the time designing your content process. Because if you really want to scale the content, you really need to create your mini factory of content. If you're creating, one blog every blue moon, one newsletter every quarter, probably not a big deal to have this process. But if you're serious about content and you want to produce a decent amount or a decent output of content, there's several steps that you need to take before you start even writing your first word, right? And when I talk about, so first, design the process, just sketch it out, go on a whiteboard, and put all the pieces of the process. And where does your process start? So it's dictated what the strategy of your business, right? So what is the strategy of your business? Are you a media publisher? Are you an agency? Are you a brand? Are you an e-commerce? What do you sell in services, etc.? So you have a business strategy, which will dictate your revenue strategy, your sales strategy, which will dictate your marketing strategy, and so on and so on. So how does that impact your output and what you're trying to achieve, right? So when you have that, then you can go into, okay, what is our content marketing strategy? Then you go into what are the topics that we're gonna write about, what are those keywords, okay, etc., etc., and how we're gonna do that on a systematic basis, right? Because that's not gonna be one and done. It's gonna be, okay, every month or every quarter we're gonna have to be refreshing these strategies. So you after you design that process, okay, every month that when we're going to do keyword research and topic ideation, this is how we're going to do it. And then from that, we're going to have to create some briefs. From that, we're going to have to, create the process, how this is going to be written, how this is going to be edited, how this is going to be vetted by an expert, and how this is going to be published, right? So you need to sketch out the process before starting to hire people and before start scaling up, right? So after you have your process designed, then you're going to assemble your team. And you can either go internal, external, freelancers, work with a company like ours, or you can hire your own copywriters. Some of that we have found over time is that a mixed or a hybrid approach works well. Or sometimes you're only dabbling. You might just hire one freelancer, just come and work with a company like ours, so you can dabble into it and then refine your process. And before going and invest in the 70, 80, 100K a year to hire a good writer, you can dabble a little bit with some outsourcing. But then you assemble your team, so you're not only going to have your writers, because that's some people forget about like your writer is just writing the piece, but you need editors, you need strategists, you need people who are going to polish it, right? You need somebody that's going to edit the stuff that the writer wrote. You don't want your writers self-editing sometimes, right? So you just assemble your team, and it doesn't need to be, okay, now, Carlos, are you telling me you need to hire 8 people? No, you might have 1 or 2 people that are going to do these different roles. So you might have freelancers, each of them doing this role, but you need to assemble your team. And when you're going to assemble your team, you also have to go recruit them, et cetera, okay? After that, you develop your content calendar. Based on your content strategy we already talked about, what is going to be your content calendar for the year, or what is going to be your content calendar for the month, the quarter, et cetera, even if it's just a few pieces per month. It's good to have that planning in advance, because that will help you plan your resources. Then this is a very important part that some teams are missing, is create a style guide. It's very important you create a style guide, because you want your content to sound the same, right? Because otherwise you're going to be training the writers and the editors every time the same thing, right? So you want to create this framework that if when you're not around, or when people are not around, the new people can come in and just look at this style guide and know how you want to sound and what you want to say, what are the things that you want to be known for, what are the things that you don't want to mention, right? You want to be maybe you want to be a little bit witty, right? Or maybe you want to be very formal, right? But it's very important to create your style guide. Sometimes when clients come to us that they have a style guide, we create it with them. We let them use some of our style guides that might be a good fit for them. But it's very important to create, before you writing anything, you need to create a style guide. And then after you have all this, go and pilot the process. Just try it out with a few pieces and then work out the kinks, right? And then iterate. And when you now refine the process, now you can go on and scale out, right? I know it's a very high level process, Jeff, and I'm sorry for the very long answer, but design the process, assemble the team, develop your content calendar, create a style guide, and pilot, and finally scale out when you have refined the kinks of the system.
No, sorry. That was really good. I do have a few points of critique, though, that I need you to comment on.
Sure.
So where do you get in? So I love the idea that you described. Style guide to briefs. Doesn't it involve some education on, if you don't have editorial experience? And this gets into considerations for 2023, and I've seen teams that have gone through working with teams like yours or building their own team, and one of their core KPIs are put the systems in place so we have no developmental edits, right? We don't want, if we don't have any developmental edits, it means that our strategist is aligned with the person who created the briefs and is aligned with the writer, right? I know that's a dream scenario, no developmental edits, especially if you're trying to be witty, right? But yeah, that's one. So from my standpoint, isn't there a portion of this before we even get started, how are we going to measure ourselves? What are those KPIs? How do you instruct teams on developing KPI systems?
absolutely. I think, and I appreciate that. I think that's a good compliment. That when you design the process, you design, okay, how are we going to measure ourselves? Is this going to be, well, maybe output is some of it, but also maybe your SEO manager or your marketing manager is going to be, okay, what the traffic are you generating, right? How much resources on a per traffic are you consuming, right? What is the cost of this traffic, things like that. So yeah, so when you design your process, for sure, absolutely, you need to develop your KPIs as part of that process. Now, I think something that you said in that vein is what I forgot to mention is when you create your style guide, you need to train the whole team on it, right? And on your process and the content calendar, right? So while you create that style guide, you also want to train your writers, editors, everybody involved in the process around your content process and your content scaling process, right? And that process and that training needs to be refreshed very frequently.
Oh, I love that. So some other pieces of that I want to get into, and then we can start getting into kind of like what's new in 2023 from a content perspective, trends. We want to talk about AI, a number of things. So by the way, if you're waiting on those types of things, I think getting a baseline of how Carlos thinks is super critical to be like, how far different is he than the way I think, or how my team is structured, or how I'm planning to grow. And that's why I think this is a really important line. When you're thinking about that, I love the way you describe that you will have team members doing multiple tasks internally, but at least you'll know what stages of, imagine a factory for content, what pieces of that factory exist. And I'll use a great example of this. Benjamin Shapiro, Voices of Search podcast, a number of other great podcasts. He's a great on-air talent, wonderful interviewer. When he's done with that product, it goes through a beautiful factory of efforts to then become many different distribution channels. Go check out that and subscribe to that podcast, by the way, now that I'm mentioning him. But he has a person or a resource for every, it might be the same one, might be different, for every step in taking the output of the webinar and turning it into a predestined number of assets, right? So isn't that also, when you get into it, it's saying, what resources do I have? What resources do I not have, right? As part of that process, because I see so many times I see the CMO will say, I've got this much money, I want to create this many pages, go. How do you go from there to, okay, well, what about repurposing? What about production, image acquisition, quality, update frequency, so how do you go through that with a team and say, okay, who's in charge of this? Inside, outside? Is that how you do it, or what's your process there?
Yeah, for our process and how we advise clients, so sometimes people they really don't even know where to start, right? So I was just hired as an SEO manager here, and I have no clue how to do this, but I was given a mission of increase my traffic and create all these pieces. So we help them out to create the process, but yeah, you need to think about jobs to be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to think, okay, what needs to happen for a piece of content to be produced and be live on the website, and then you either go backwards or just start, okay, what topic are we going to write about? Okay, what do I need to know? Okay, then I need to know keyword research. And I would recommend a top down and a bottoms up approach, mm-hmm. right? And then find mid in the middle. So top down is what I was alluding to. Okay, you think about your business strategy, then your marketing strategy, your go to market, your et cetera, right? And then from that, you say, okay, what needs to happen for me to create that traffic or that content that is aligned with that top-down strategy. Now, the bottom-up approach is, okay, when a ready to publish piece is ready, or a published piece is out there, what needs to happen before for that to be right? So you can design the process those two ways. And then you need to think about jobs to be done. Don't think about people that you need to hire. Just think about, okay, well, something needs to be researched, some data needs to be collected, some topic have to be ideated, some instruction have to be created for the writer, or for to be written. Somebody has to write it, somebody has to edit it, somebody has to approve it, and somebody has to publish it. And then somebody has to look at the analytics, and somebody has to refresh it or make a decision about that, right? So you think about that chain, and jobs to be done. And then you can start allocating resources. Okay, well, is my budget $1 million, or is it $10,000 for the year, or is it $1,000? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then from that, you start trying to kind of put the piece of the puzzle. I think luckily today we have many more options than before, so you can freelance anything pretty much, and for minutes even, right? So you can use freelancers for some of these, and I actually encourage you to use freelancers for some of these things that are not mission critical for your process, and they're just a fraction of the process, right? Or you can go to end-to-end shops like ours, or you can just start doing 70% of it yourself, and then just get freelancers to do the 30%, get you all the way to 100%. Or if you have the budget and you want to have the control, you can go and hire a small army of people to do every step of your process. If you have very ambitious scaling goals, then maybe that's the way.
Awesome. This is so actionable for everybody, what you just described. So I like to break this down into, and I completely subscribe to these two processes. One is a process inventory, and the other one is what you called it the bottom up approach. The bottom up approach, completely actionable. Go from raw draft that you haven't edited, right? Imagine that existing in the abstract, and now all the layers that go on top of it. For your business, it's the combination is all going to be different. What happens if we don't do this step, right? Okay. Now, what is the step? Who can do it from our team? And then what are the good things that can happen if we do this? Because in content, a lot of these things are going to be perceived as optional. What if we don't put any images on our pages, right? What if we don't do a copy edit? What if we don't do a developmental edit? What if we don't do good keyword research? Okay? So go through that process, and you will get to the place Carlos is working through, because you can go buy, commodity content and plop it on your site. See how far that gets you, right? I'm not going to say that's a good idea. That's why when you said dabbling, I was like, dabble? I don't want to dabble. We don't dabble. No one dabbles. You dabble, you die in this space right now. You might have to get out of the gate somehow, but gosh, it has to be strategic. Okay, so I love the way you described it, and I would challenge everybody, if you haven't done a process inventory, what are we doing manually? What are we using assistance? What are we using outsourcing? And then go from draft, go from how a bill becomes a law with your content, the most beautiful piece you have, versus a draft you just got off of a scratch paper, like this horrible diagram that I just drew of Carlos's process, because all I do is constantly take notes. But no, go from that draft to something beautiful, and decide for your business, when do we do this and when don't we do this? And this is a great segue for going into 2023, and something I wanted to catch up with you on. And I love how you say in-house, outsource, hybrid. Typically hybrid's always going to be right, and I love that. I want more on that. Plus, I want to get into, is there a place for 1 and 2 star content anymore, right? So when is the hybrid the right choice is question one. And question two is content no longer a low quality commodity, right? Is there ever a case where we would actually say, yeah, write some fluff? Right? So go in from one hybrid and then two to kind of the mandated quality.
So the hybrid approach, I could tell you, so yeah, I run an outsourcing business, so I could tell, yeah, outsourcing is always the best, but I'm here to be completely genuine. And I think I tell clients, look, at the end of the day, I just want you to get the best content you can get, right? For the resources you have on your strategy. So we have come across clients that have very, let's say, time-sensitive content, or highly specific, highly technical content where they want to have a certain amount of control. So if that is the case, then you're better off with maybe having your own writer, because the ROI of the control of having that person at your fingertips, or having that person just down the hallway and can turn around a piece of content overnight, there's value to, or there might be some ROI to your business for that, right? There is some people that produce highly like news stuff, like news like stuff. I want to say news stuff necessarily, but news like stuff that in the entertainment business sometimes is very time sensitive. In the sports business, time sensitive content, right? That outside outsourcing, you just have some more hurdles to go through to get you um, that fast. So I think it would work for some clients, but for some others it just doesn't. So that's an example. But there are clients that have that kind of content and more evergreen, more patient, let's say patient content, where you can go through the process of outsourcing that. So I say, like, when you have something that is very very critical for your business, that you have the expertise in house, you really want to control the messaging, and it's time sensitive. It's good to have somebody in house. Now, if there is a part of the content strategy, there's certain content types that are just more efficient to be outsourced. Maybe that's a great combination, because you're going to get maybe the scale and the benefits of not having to manage these operation of a scale content, and the benefits of having your internal team, right? Sometimes it's just when you're trying stuff out, maybe it's good to have that internal person, right? Because doing experimentation sometimes is harder when you're committing with a partner like us on a long-term relationship. So I think that's the hybrid approach. I think if you have totally nailed down your content strategy, and it's not too complex, not too time sensitive, it's more efficient to outsource, because you get all the efficiencies. This is what we do 24/7, right? Nobody with an internal team is going to do it more efficient than ours on a cost and on velocity basis. And sometimes maybe it's just good to have it internally, right? Like, being completely honest. There's some cases where it's just is a better approach, but I think there's no one size fits all. I think the hybrid approach is really good. But we work with many clients that they're really good at what they do and what they know, and they realize, look, writing content, there's people are better than us. So and then they focus on the strategy side, which we cannot replicate for them. You know what I mean? We cannot go and try to pretend that we're gonna know their business strategy better than they do. So we let them do the strategy, and then we focus on the content, which is what we do well. So yeah.
Gets into the question, before we get into a few other things, I think making good decisions about quality, but also, what if the strategy, and one thing, it's usually a litmus test for content networks, and you guys leaps and bounds above many, is oftentimes I'll speak with a team member of yours or you, and you're like, they're not ready for us. They don't have a great strategy. What if you get a strategy that, yeah, you could execute this, you could fill out this order form, and this happens to a lot of content teams internally. I like to call it organizational problems, because maybe the person deciding what you write about has no idea what will work, or has researched and done no data analysis. But what if you get a content plan? I know it's hard because you're in the business of developing it, but what if it's not going to be successful the way that it's handed to you? And how do you even get there? And that's really another question that I have. Is one thing that I would say to consider in 2023 is figure out what is your why. Why are you creating content or updating content in the first place? What data are you using to predict the yield that you likely will get out of all of these investments? A lot of times people think of content as a commodity. It's $10 a page, it's $100 a page, but it's so much more than that. The loss of time, the opportunity cost of not creating something that's successful. $100 draft you bought from a content network and didn't treat them like part of your team could actually be worth, you might have lost $5,000, $10,000 in real value. And so how do you go from, what if you get a plan that's not good? What do you do? And then second is, like, how do you get people to not think about content as a commodity?
Oh man. How much time do we have?
I just described the problem with all people running, the problem with all content marketing networks, right? No, but seriously, how do you think
No,
about that? I think that's critical.
yeah, I mean, it's tough. And I empathize with SEOs and with marketing folks. SEO is evolving so much, and it becomes harder and harder every day. So it's really hard to keep up. And people with tiny teams is uh, is very hard to keep up. And the other thing is that, I think even though content has been around for a while, I think content marketing as an industry is still pretty young. So people don't realize how important it has become, and the ROI of having a good content marketing strategy, right? So the CEO says, "Oh, well, we should be doing some blogging," and then they tell, "Okay, well, let's talk to the marketing person," and the marketing person, "Okay, let's get some blogs," and then they tell the SEO person or the marketing coordinator, "Hey, get me some blogs," and then, "Okay, shoot, what do I do?" All right, so they Google, "Okay, how to create some blogs," and then they go on and start throwing spaghetti at the wall. And look, this is more common. Sadly, is more common than not, because people, we just realized very early on. Okay, what's your content strategy? You know, what are your topics that you want to talk about, and okay, why are those topics? Why that particular strategy? And people, they don't really know exactly why. So sometimes we have to tell clients that they're not ready, right? We need to send them to some other brands, or different services that we have as well, for people that are not as ready, because to be able to scale content, you need to be ready. You're not going to be able to run a marathon if you're never running your life, right? you, as far as you run to the kitchen, right? You need to be able
Speak
to
for yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
oh, but really, you need to. It's like, we all want sometimes the magic pill that is going to make us lose all the weight and gain and be shredded. But the reality is, you got to go to the gym, you got to eat healthy, you got to do the reps, and then you got to learn and do all these things. So content is the same. You cannot just one day your CMO, your CEO said, "Okay, go bring me traffic," and then you go and slap a few blocks on your page and ta-da. That's not how it works anymore, and it's just getting harder and harder. So people really need to understand that concept and sell it internally, because you're just going to be wasting a lot of money and a lot of opportunity costs and a lot of just really good dollars, because garbage in, garbage out. Meaning, if you don't have the proper strategy, if you don't have the proper content, the proper things going into your content pieces, you're just gonna get a bunch of words on your site that don't do much for you. So, and you now wasted a lot of time on good money.
I mean, I like to use sports analogies for things because it's easy for me to think. I mean, do you want one person that hits a home run 1 out of every 40 times, or do you want somebody who bats 300 on your team? And so being more consistent, versus lucky, right? I mean, and that's what you get. I mean, you look at so many people's websites, and you got to do content inventory. You got to assess the quality of your sites. But just speaking to 2023, let's talk about artificial intelligence. Let's talk about the buzz. Let's talk about, because sometimes people are actually thinking about this as skip this whole content thing. I just want this payload at the end, and it seems magical. What are the problems that you're seeing with this and at any level? And by the way, I've been talking about these problems for a real long time. It's fun to watch them go up and then crash and then go up and crash again, but it is getting higher quality. And how do you integrate that to help scale? And how do you defend against it if it creates problems?
Yeah, I think like all new things, it creates a lot of buzz and a lot of confusion, a lot of overexcitement, right? It's like, what has happened with crypto and what happened with the internet when it came, with the 2000 bubble when it came out, right? Like, everybody wants to jump on the wagon, and but a lot of people don't understand what this real thing is. And with time, all the people that jump on the wagon, they crash, and then, but it is a real thing, and these technologies become real and become mainstream and become very helpful. And the problem is navigating all the noise, because they're so new, and the media, kind of beef them up with all the boss around them. So it's hard to navigate the waters. But definitely, I think AI is a game changer in many facets of our life, right? Um, and content is not going to be a stranger to that. However, how I think about any disrupting technology is how can we use it as an ally rather than as a disruptor? How do we disrupt ourselves, and how can we use this tool to do what we do better? So, just to give you another analogy, when Excel came up, maybe a lot of people thought, okay, accountants are going to be dead now. Like, there's not going to be a space for accounting because you have Excel and all these tools. If anything, they just became, way more efficient, right? So if the accountant could before manage only 2 or 3 files because they have to do everything by hand, now they can manage 40 or 50 files because they're using Excel. So I think AI for content, just to be more specific, might just help us become more efficient. And there's a lot of nitty gritty that needs to go into content, a lot of research. And what I see AI being good at is coming out with those research points or creating outlines. But good content is still gonna win the day, right? And good content and good quality content, well, Google keeps telling us what good quality content is. So just to give you an example, so product reviews, right? So Google wants us to create pieces of content where you can demonstrate expertise that you tested the product, all that stuff. So AI is gonna be hard for AI to compete with that, right? So how is AI demonstrate personal expertise if they're not a person? But what AI could do is just to bring some research around that product, right? Okay, give me some initial stuff. Give me a jump start. And give me some of that research, some of that data. Go crawl the net and give me some of that data, and then a good writer and a good an expert is going to come and build upon that, right? So, or maybe you say, okay, I want to create this piece of content. I want the outline. What were the main points that I need to touch? And AI is, I think, is getting better and better. So, and it will continue to get better and better. Like we were just chatting about ChatGPT, and actually, this I think is a big leap, step function from GPT-3. So it just came out. I think people testing it already crashed their server because there was I think like over 1 million users in the first few days. So besides the bugs, I think there is a real thing here, but we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. What's going to happen as this tool becomes available to everyone? Okay, everyone will be able to produce content. So what is going to happen to the really, really good content is going to still rise to the top because Google wants you, or search engines and on social networks want you to create really good content. It's going to be engaging. It's going to help people. It's going to add value. So the mediocre or just okay content was still not going to rank, still not going to do anything, which is what GPT can do. Yeah, they can create some content, but it's not going to be great content, right? But if you see as a tool, as an ally, okay, use it in your process, incorporate it in your process to make some of those tasks a little bit faster, more efficient. So maybe a writer, after using some AI tools, they can maybe be 50% faster than before, just by using the tools. Again, these are not going to probably come and take everybody's jobs. They're just going to make everybody a little bit more efficient and leave really this open up the space for more creativity, right? I think what technology is going to do for us and the copywriting space, I mean, everywhere, is just open up more time for us to be more creative, right? And take the menial tasks that don't add a lot of value.
Yeah, I have customers in MarketMuse who their writers get to spend 6 times more effective time writing. I mean, that just makes me so happy because that's what they want to do. I always joke around like the vision for MarketMuse was setting the standard for content quality. The flip side of it was ridding the world of bad content. But how it's evolved is to really like let the writers write. I mean, or let the conversion copywriters like focus on conversion, not copywriting. So getting into that, I think that I love that. With the advent of these mechanisms, though, how do you verify subject matter expertise? How are you building expertise-driven content at scale? You mentioned Google is giving more and more guidelines. If Annabelle or Stephen have not already shared it, I've walked through on a few blog posts with Stephen Jeske on my team about the helpful content update and product reviews update, which you mentioned, and some ways that you should be thinking about that. But how do you verify that the content you're creating is checking off the boxes for being able to be considered as expert-driven content that's, you know, kind of filling out your whatever kind of strategy you have, whether it's a topic cluster strategy or whether it's a city strategy, or what do you, how do you verify that? And isn't that, is that your top priority? I mean, if you're not verifying all that with your writers, if you're not assessing content quality, I don't even think you have a 23 strategy. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think, yeah. So we need to, let's separate content quality from expertise, because I mean they're intertwined, but they're somewhat independent as well. So content quality is kind of table stakes. You have to have good quality content, and again, good quality content, is it helpful? Is it easy to consume? Right? Does it really solve the problem? Does it answer a question? Right? That's kind of simple table stakes content or good quality content. Now expertise, which just is not needed for every single thing, right? I think, and I forgot to answer some of your questions before, but maybe I take the opportunity. So, is this, you asked me, is there a space for 1 or 2 star content anymore? And for everybody, 1 or 2 star content, let's think about entry level writers, or on the lower end of the quality spectrum. But I think there's a space for there's a fit for that kind of writer, and there's still some pieces of content that are not necessarily long blog forms, white papers, etc., but short blurbs. It's very hard. It's very hard to be very creative in a 200-word blurb about something, right? Or maybe a product description. There are product descriptions that are 150 words long. So there's no, it's more than anything. It's just data gathering more than anything. And then all writers have to start somewhere. So that's where a lot of all writers start, and then they build up their skills, and then get to get better at longer longer pieces. So anyway, going back to the initial question about expertise, not everything requires an expertise, and if you have your money, your life topics, of course, finance, medicine, etc., healthcare, you definitely need an expert. On what an expert is, do you have the credentials? Okay, if you're going to talk about very serious illness, well, you better be an MD, or an MD with a specialization on that. The one byline in the or very fact check in the article. And now here I would like to make a clarification. I get a lot of clients or a lot of people I talk to in the industry. Hey, how can you find a doctor that can write an article? Like, well, you don't. Like, that's not a thing. Like, it's very hard to get a doctor that's going to write an article, because those guys are making $10,000 an hour, and you want to pay them $500. So that's not a thing. And who's to say that the doctor is going to be a good writer anyway, right? So people kind of a lot of people had that disconnect, and I don't blame it. It's just, if you're not in the industry, you don't. It's kind of a run assumption that you make. But now that we have been in the industry for so long, we have kind of figured out, okay, what you need to do is get a really good writer and pair with an expert, right? So the good writer is going to probably capture the knowledge of the expert, and is going to put it in words, in the written word. Or a good writer might do that initial take of the piece, and then you get an expert to verify it, fact check it, and then give it approval, give it a stamp of approval, if it makes sense. It's way more efficient, not only by time but also by cost, and also is easier to find. So how do we verify expertise? Is based on credentials, right? What kind of titles? Have they published anything before? Have they been cited anywhere else? Do they have any personal experience that can be verifiable? So all those things. And I know sometimes, like, people don't have that expertise and want to become experts at that. And the only way to become an expert is becoming an expert, meaning going through the motions to become an expert, right? So, and if you, let's say, if you want to be an expert at writing about products for new moms, well, you need to go and try the products, and maybe you can become an expert and put many pieces out there until you start being recognized as an expert. So there's 2 ways. You're either an expert because your background, your career has given you that expertise, or you start from scratch and become an expert over time.
Everything you just said. Make sure you've got some credibility. My new thing, and I'm saying it here first, but it's going to be part of my 2023 content, is that, do you make money? Well, every topic, every sector is your money or your life then.
Yeah,
that's where it's going, folks. If you don't believe it, go use some of these large language models. Every site will become under the constriction of your money or your life industries in the coming year and a half. So market here. It's all going to happen. And so I love the way you described it. And that's going to go that direction. It's going to get harder and harder and harder and harder to get by with mediocre. I love the description of, I always say, oh, you're a good chef. Can you farm? Or, I mean, not all beer brewers are qualified beer tasters. They're not judges. And by the way, most beer judges damn well ain't good brewers, right? Many of them think they are, right? That's the same thing with content. You don't want your doctor sitting there writing content. If they can give you 10 minutes of their time to review a page or give you an interview on answering questions that are well prepared in a brief format, best use of time. I love those questions. All right, so now let's look at actionable, target goals 2023. Let's say I am producing 20 to 30 articles a month. Let's say I'm in a hybrid, 10 creation and update motions each month with my in-house team. I'm working with your company or similar one to do another 10, feeling pretty good. I got, at least the wheels aren't falling off. We're growing. We grew 10%. We'd like to grow 30% this year. What's the plan for 2023 for that team? A lot of people on this thing, I'm scanning through the people watching this right now. I would qualify as like, they've got their stuff together. They've got a good methodology for strategically prioritizing. What's the answer for them? What do they have to make sure they don't fall victim to? What traps they don't step in to get more out of the money they spend, as well as make sure they're staying ahead of the curve, which most of the people on this webinar are ahead of the curve, which is just the nature of working with MarketMuse.
Yeah, no, but and this might sound obvious, and everyone's gonna be like, "Well, duh," but it's hard to keep up with the industry, right? Like, there's now a new December helpful content update, right? Like, now there's so many that is even hard to keep count, right? So just make sure that you understand what is the lay of the land. So what are the latest algorithms? What are the new table of stakes? Because table of stakes keep changing every month. So okay, well, let's get our an inventory of what are the table of stakes of what is expected of us next year. Okay, now really realign with your business strategy. What is your business strategy? And that's my content strategy for 2023 is aligned. What are my resources? And you should have, because you're already producing. So in your example, you're already producing some content. So you do have a strategy of refreshing your existing content, because you want to make sure you don't get penalized for having crappy content, or that you're not missing an opportunity to to improve, or maybe some low-hanging fruit of refreshing some existing content. I think 2023 is going to be a huge year for refreshing content, because people have been creating lots of content over time. Now with all these algorithm updates, they are going to have to probably spend a good amount of resources refreshing this content. And sometimes I like the sports, going back to sports analogy, refreshing content sometimes might be just shooting under the hoop, whereas creating new content is kind of your 3-pointers, right? You might have a better payout, but it's just higher risk. So I would really strongly advise people to divide your content strategy for next year. Let's take stock and let's make an inventory of our existing content. Let's see where do we have refresh opportunities. Even now, and I read in your article, Jeff, about the hot air balloon, there may be some stuff that is dragging you down, right? So let's clean up stuff that is already totally outdated and not relevant, to make sure that we don't get penalized. And let's refresh every content that we can. Of course, keeping your moneymaker or your hero pieces alive and fresh and always in top of mind. And then let's look at our new content strategy. What is the new stuff that we're going to publish? Also, now topic clustering is a very important strategy that if you're not applying a topic clustering, you're in the past, right? So your competitors are definitely gonna get ahead of you. So look at think about your topic cluster strategy for all of your newest stuff, even for your older stuff, right? Because now you can regroup and create those clusters, and also think about not only cluster but your funnels, right? So you got to go from top of the funnel all the way to the bottom, right? Awareness, consideration, et cetera, all those things. So I think to wrap it up on your question is, look at your what can you refresh, what do you need to get rid of, and when you look at your new content strategy, make sure that you're using topic clustering and looking at the whole funnel at the different intent, also different intents, and definitely quality and make sure where is the bar for your industry. The bar for is not the same for all industries, just to be very, very clear. So where's the bar for your industry? If you're in the lifestyle, maybe the bar is not the same as if you are writing about, cancer, things like that, just to make the example a little dramatic. But also let check on where the table stakes for your industry are.
And they're moving. I love that list, but watch the table stakes. Watch those table stakes. If you think you're getting by with massive quantities of low quality, be ready for par to go down for you, because it's going to change. And it's already happening. It's happening literally as we speak. I'm watching on my second computer right here that's processing stuff. Things are changing right now for people with large quantities of low quality content. And I look forward to that future personally, and I know you do too, as a person who sells a lot of high quality content, and has an amazing team that does that. If somebody wants to reach out for you, how can they do that? And by the way, Carlos, this is a great conversation. I think everybody's got a clarity on two things. Get your operations in place, understand what you're actually putting out there and the quality of that. Think about a hybrid model. But one of the most important things you said, and if anyone didn't wait to the end, they missed it, is you have to have a refresh strategy. You have to have an update strategy, no matter who you are or where you're at. Get an update strategy in place. It's going to be the fastest way you can put points on the board in the new year. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you have my Twitter and my LinkedIn there, but my email, carlos.mesa, with a C, at crowdcontent.com. We'll be reaching out anyway to some people, just say hi, thank them for attending the webinar, and just kind of opening the door. So if they have any questions, they know where to find us, and we're more than happy to jump on calls and give them or advice and or experience on the content world.
Awesome. And I've gotten a number of questions, which I'm going to drop. I've woven them into my questions for you so far, but I've got a number of them I'm going to drop into the Slack channel. Please go check that out if you are hanging around here. Again, there's a link in the chat. Go check out the webinar. Also, if you are so inclined and you want to see the new features coming out on MarketMuse, if you're not already a MarketMuse premium customer, book a demo here. We can get you to personalized evaluation of your site, so you can not have to ask questions about which clusters you need or what topics you have. You'll know exactly what you should be creating so that you can appropriately fill out those order forms for Carlos. See what I did there, right? Fill out the order form. You know they're going to be
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thanks so much. And there's another in the Q&A. There's also a share of a blog post about the helpful content update and the product review update. So if that impacts you, go read those posts. We also have a video that's associated with that. But Carlos, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to 2023, like, what are you most excited about for content? Like, what's the most exciting thing? And then dovetail that with a prediction. And it can just be one. Mine is everybody's gonna have to start thinking like they're YMYL. What are you looking forward to, and what's a good prediction?
Oh, I really want to see how things shake out with what's happening with the economy, right? I think there's a lot of uncertainty, so I want to see what is going to be content's role on that. I think there is a huge opportunity for people that want to optimize how they acquire clients and acquire traffic, and I think content marketing will have a huge role to play in that under a lower resource economy. So I'm excited to see that. I'm also excited to see what the evolution of this AI and how the content world shapes out. And what other types of content are gonna come up as protagonists of the content world. So yeah, lots. This is a very exciting industry, and next year we'll probably there's gonna be a lot of moving and shaking, I'm sure.
Yeah, I look forward to watching OpenAI and Google just have a completely side-eye relationship all through 2023. Like, yo, what are you putting out there for everybody?
Yeah.
How are we? And then watching that constrict and raise the bar for quality with content. Carlos, thank you so much again for joining us, and I'm so glad that we're going to be I see a call. Feed the AI crawlers was a fun comment from the chat. So thanks a lot. Join us in the Slack. I saved a few great questions from the audience, and thank you for submitting them either here or on Twitter and my other screens. So thank you so much. And Carlos, it's been a pleasure. I always love talking to you, especially about this. Though I feel like if you didn't know anything about content operations and you listen to this, you'd have a really good place to start. And I think that's a good place to call it a day. Thanks again.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Jeff.